And that's where you as a person come out in an application, in an interview. Mission Accepted Season 2, Episode 11. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are yourself?
I am outstanding. I'm excited to talk to you about your application, talk to you about why you thought you got into medical school, and hopefully teach some other people from your successes. So,
All right.
Congratulations first and foremost on your acceptance to medical school. Obviously, the kind of the beginning of the journey to becoming a physician. Let's talk about why you think, reflecting back on your application cycle, why you think you got in. And before we jump into that, just give some brief overview, number of application cycles, number of interviews, any of that kind of broad overview.
I had 4 interviews.
Okay.
I got accepted to the first one that I interviewed at pretty early on in the cycle.
Great.
It was my first application cycle too, so that was very exciting and happy I don't have to go through it again.
Yes.
I think I was successful because I have a lot of clinical experience.
Okay.
And I think I was able to kind of draw from that and understand why I want to be a physician and hopefully convey that in the correct way. And I mean, it seems like one of the programs or some of the programs thought I did do that in a pretty good way.
Yeah. Were you surprised with any of the interviews that you had?
I was woefully unprepared for where I got accepted to, and I didn't think I did all that well, honestly. And so I was pretty surprised with when I got the accepted call. So that was fun.
Nice. Woefully underprepared, meaning you just weren't ready for the interview or didn't prepare well enough?
I was a little caught off guard by the MMI format.
Okay.
And I shouldn't have been, because I knew that was going to be at least how some of them were going to go. And I just did not prepare for that adequately. I didn't feel like, but apparently I did a good enough job. So
good enough. That's all it takes is good enough. Awesome. Yeah. All right. Anything in your application that you were concerned about that maybe we should take a deeper look here to see how you did?
I was very concerned about my CAR score on my MCAT.
Okay.
It was 122. And I mean, the overall score was, I mean, it was okay. It was a 504, but that one really brought the whole score down.
Yeah. Yeah. That CAR score, darn it. Okay. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to jump into your application. So let's go ahead and switch over there. Right. And the first thing that I love looking at is when you submitted. And you submitted day one, very early on in those first couple hours.
Yeah.
Why the rush to get it in that day?
So my school's pre-medical program or whatever, they have us write all of our activities, personal statement, and we go through it even before the application cycle opens up. I think we started in February.
Yep.
And so I bought your book and I was writing all mine down and everything. And there were some tweaks that I had to make along the way, but that was the reason for submitting it early. And of course, your advice is submit it as early as possible without making mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. Awesome. And so you can see, obviously paid off because you were processed June 1st, right away. Yeah, there's no huge benefit being processed that early other than just kind of a mental load off of your shoulders. To know that everything is done and in and everything else. So we get to kind of the red flag section, no big red flags, which is great. And we see that you are a military vet with an honorable discharge, which is great. Thank you for your service. And then we get to grades. And so we get to joint services transcript, which we see a lot with military members. And then we go down, we see lots of A's, some B's, some B minuses, but lots of A's. And so really solid GPA from a science perspective, 3.68, 3.7 basically overall GPA. So solid GPA. And then we get to this silly MCAT score, which is, I mean, it's okay. It's not great. And that CAR score, wow, that CAR score definitely weighing you down. You definitely earned all the bonus points in Psych, so good job picking up those bonus points there. Chem Phys starting off a little rough with that 125. So MCAT, good GPA, really solid GPA. From a stat perspective, were you getting any feedback from advisors, your pre-health office that's like you shouldn't apply, your MCAT score is not good enough, that 122, you're going to be filtered out? What kind of feedback did you get there?
So I actually didn't have any advice after I submitted my application, and I took my MCAT
you did in June.
It was late May, I think.
Yep. Yeah, May 26 or June 26 is when the score came out.
The score was processed. Yeah. My advisor did tell me my GPA probably. She said it was okay. It wasn't great.
GPA is awesome. What?
Yeah, I I'd kind of brushed it off. I was like, all right, I think it's gonna be okay. 3.68, 3.71 or whatever it was. I was like, I think that's gonna be fine.
Yep.
I was concerned with the MCAT score though, but I just told myself anything above 500, I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens, because I felt like I had a pretty good story.
Yeah. Okay. how much weight, and we're going to dive into your activities here in a second. How much weight did you put on, I'm a military vet, former corpsman, I'll be good. Were you confident in that story there?
I felt very confident in my story, probably almost to my detriment, I might think, but I mean, it worked out. So I was trying to stay as humble as I could while still maintaining confidence.
Yeah.
So
yeah, good. Okay. That sounds like a good attribute for a physician to have. Stay humble and be confident. Okay. Yeah. So that's interesting. So everyone with a 504 MCAT should go join the military, be a corpsman, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah.
All right. So we get to your experiences with tutoring here at the beginning. And the first thing I see is a name with quotes and a story. And I'm like, all right, whew, I'm good. I'm excited. I want to read these. And just to be clear, not every extracurricular has to have a story. I just like reading stories for the ones where you can write one and then be careful. We're going to hopefully have an application renovation. Unfortunately, have an application renovation student who just went way overboard with the creative writing, storytelling, and it fit her background in theater and the arts. So you can go overboard with your storytelling. So you did a great job storytelling here. Could have potentially used a little bit more reflection, other than you were happy to see her achieve the grade, but great story. And for I always go back to, for being a tutor or a teaching assistant, whatever, everyone knows what that is. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to talk about what you do. You don't need to talk about how I adjusted to the needs of each individual student. Duh, that's what everyone does. So that's where it's avoid that stuff. Give me you here. And that's what you did. So good job.
Thank you.
You got shadowing hours, which is great. Check that box for yourself and for the medical schools. Yeah. And it's interesting. Your reflection here, I kind of marked it as probably didn't need to say that. It showed me the level of commitment to his patients, organization, and top-notch care that Dr. Smith had, right? Whoever this doctor is. Your reflection is, he's a great doctor. I'd rather see a reflection on you and your learnings from it, how it impacted you. So that's where I go a little bit off. Great contacts here. Big Sky Medical Center, X-ray tech, CT X-ray tech. So you talk about and give this context of this medical center, the population, kind of the location, that helps the reader understand who you are in this situation. Good context, good story. And again, the reflection here, a lot of students like to reflect in their activity descriptions of, this made me want to be a doctor. And I don't think that's the place for it, because that's what the personal statement's for. It's tell me you want to be a doctor in your personal statement. Show me impact in who you are. Just kind of outside of that question of do you want to be a doctor for your activity descriptions. But again, overall, really solid, good story, right direction for the most part. So great.
All right.
So lots of great clinical experience, obviously doing that for a long time. Um, Being a board member for Hockey's official association. How much did this come up? You're kind of being a hockey referee and this board member. How much did this come up in your interviews?
It's came up 3 out of the 4, and the reason I don't think it came up in the 4th one is because it was the
MMI.
They give you the prompt, and then you have to talk about whatever the prompt is. So I didn't really have a really good chance to explain any of the reasons I have done what I've done. But it's been a big part of a lot of my interviews. And I think a lot of the schools I apply to have big hockey populations too. So it's always been kind of fun.
Yeah. And that's where I always tell this story of a student I met several years ago who was actually my first employee that I brought on to help out with stuff before she started med school. And she was like, my advisor told me to stop coaching soccer and to not talk about soccer on my application. I'm like, wrong. Like, no, do it, because it's who you are, right? It's your passions. I'm sure you could talk about hockey all the time. And if I watched hockey and it was the Stanley Cup like last night and you just randomly were interviewing around that time and it's like, oh, did you see that call? It was horrible. Like, that ref needs to be gone. They need to check his bank account to see who's paying him off. Like, we could just have fun talking about that. And that's where you as a person come out in an application, in an interview, that I feel is very, very important to put on paper, put in your application. So love that it's there. Good job putting it there. I love asking these questions. Was there any pushback from advisors talking about this kind of stuff?
No, they never really commented on it, good or bad. I think they just had some, tweaks to how I was telling the story in that particular instance.
Good. Any pushback from a storytelling aspect, or were they like, oh no, you should just talk about everything you learned from it? Talk about that angle, because not every advisor agrees with my storytelling.
Yeah, I think they were kind of hit and miss on some of the stories. Some of them they're like, oh yeah, this is great. I think it really would help you. And I think in a couple other instances they were like, I think you're kind of going astray on this side of it. But yeah.
Okay. So
I've been watching your content for a while, so I think I had a pretty good idea of what I needed to do to be successful.
Awesome. Yeah, and as long as it fits for you, right? Because there are students getting into medical school, shocker, who don't follow my advice and go the complete other way, and surprise, they get into medical school, maybe despite their terrible extracurricular activity writing, but it works for you. Apparently you felt comfortable doing it, so that's great. I love the numbers here for your awards, honors, recognitions as your achievement medal here from the Navy and Marine Corps. So great numbers. Being in the military, you kind of learn to write like that for achievements and awards and stuff. So
yeah, and I pretty much just took the award write up verbatim and kind of switched a couple things.
Nice. And then we have hospital corpsman in the Navy for a couple months. Here for 500 hours, most meaningful. Again, really good description here. And I'm going pretty quick. So if you want to pause and read and take notes, that's fine. President, Junior Enlisted Sailor Association. Again, got some numbers there, how much money was raised, which is great. Shows impact. And then feeding the homeless here is awesome in Japan. So all really, really great stuff. And then the bulk of your hours here as a CT X-ray tech in the Navy from 14 to 17. So lots of hours there. It's weird. The hours are a little bit weird. How did you calculate your hours? Because I would assume 3 years, right? April 14 to July 17, 3 years, roughly 2,000 hours a year is full-time work. Why is that not a higher hour count there?
I think I was a little gun shy to overestimate, and I probably course corrected too hard in the other way.
Yeah.
But but I think I was just trying to be conservative with it. And I assume people would understand that, you're in the military and you're going to be working a lot and you might forget some of those hours.
Yeah. Okay. That works. Definitely not horrible to underestimate, but that you underestimated by probably half. So
Okay.
that's all right. But again, you probably assume, well, some of the time I'm spent doing other duties and this and that. And so I get it.
I actually think I just, because there was that a couple month time where I switched to being a normal corpsman for Camp Fuji, and so I think I just extracted out like those 500 and whatever hours up there, but I'm still sure it's still a little low.
Yeah, that works. Not a huge deal. All right, hobbies, triathlons, great, and I love. Right, one of the things that I see a lot with students when they write about hobbies like a triathlon is, okay, being a triathlete involves a lot of dedication and hard work, and I'm going to talk about how that has helped me and will help me as a physician, and you just stay away from that, right? You don't need it there. Just who you are as a person. It's your passion. It's great. So, good job.
Thank you.
All right, and then some other not medical stuff, and then that hockey referee in there as well, something that you're still doing, which is great. And then we get to personal statement, and we have a good seed here, getting hit. Somebody getting hit on the head, and kind of being in a situation where you're helpless, right? Very common situation of like something's happening. I feel helpless. I want to be able to do something in this situation. Very, very common opportunity here. And so still very young at the time. And then you join the military, to kind of know like, hey, I'm going to join the military. I want to be a corpsman and get some experience. At that point in time, were you like, I want to be a doctor, I'm going to take this route to save some money or get some experience? Like, what was that route for you? Why did you choose that?
I've been asked this question a lot. Why did I join the Navy? I really still to this day don't really have a good answer, but it just felt right. And I didn't really feel like I wanted to go to college at the time. And I think I could have used some growing up too. And I kind of fell into the job of being a hospital corpsman, and instantly I loved it. It was just one of the most fun things I've ever done up until that point in my life.
Yeah.
And then I started gaining more and more experience and kind of realized that I wanted to be a physician pretty early. And then I think in 2014, I found your podcast and everything, and I just started listening to them from that point on, and just trying to get as much experience as I could before I even started college.
Wow.
But yeah.
Okay. So you've been listening to me for a while.
Yeah, a little while.
That's crazy. Okay. So good storytelling, good experiences here going through. No big issues going through the personal statement. Overall, really, really solid job of showing this journey, right? Yours is a little timeliney, which is okay. It doesn't have to be in kind of chronological order. Yours is, and that's okay. You have a takeaway here that's solid, that I like, to just support this reflection of like, I know what I'm doing. This is what I want. Here's why I want it. You're like, doing all these tasks was fulfilling my role in the medical team. It filled me with profound sense that I was making a difference, further confirmed to me that being a physician is my dream, and kept me motivated to continuing on my path to becoming a physician. So solid job all around. The conclusion could have been a lot stronger. Your conclusion is just a couple sentences here, but could have been a lot bigger aspirationally. I like to go a little more aspirational with conclusions. So overall, what we typically see, if we compare mission accepted to application renovation, is application renovation, by the time I'm done reading the activity section and the personal statement, I don't understand who you are.
Mm-hmm.
I see a sales pitch. I understand who you want me to think you are. But when we get to your application, right, really solid GPA, good upward trend with that kind of 3.8 last 40 credits or so. So-so MCAT score, right? A lot of people would go, if you went on a Student Doctor Network and said, I got a 504, what are my chances of getting into an allopathic medical school? Because that's what everyone says they want,
Mm-hmm.
which you did. What are my chances? And everyone would tell you, oh, you have no chance. Go retake it, whatever. But we get to the end of yours. And yes, like you were in the military, that leads to a lot of stories and a lot of impact right off the bat. And some medical schools may be more veteran friendly and may overlook that 504 just because you're a veteran. But let's throw that aside. And let's change all your corpsman stuff, your X-ray tech in the Navy stuff. And if just put that in the civilian world, if you are a civilian doing those things, you still have a really solid application because I understand who you are. At the end of the day, that's the goal of this primary application, understanding who you are. And so I think you did that. I think you did a good job at that. I understand your journey. I understand why you're here. I understand the things that you've done. You've done some interesting things, the hockey referee stuff, all solid. So I like it, right? It's not the best application. It's not the best stats, but it's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
How many interviews did you have?
4.
4. All at allopathic schools, MD schools?
All MD, yes.
Yeah. All right. The next thing to look at is secondary applications. And so bringing up your secondary application, it's very interesting to see one thing potentially that stands out in terms of your future, what you hope to accomplish. And I'll be interested to hear your thoughts, because one of the things, at least for this secondary that we have, is a part of their application, a part of their kind of community of medical students is this rural physician program or rural community health program. And you said, yeah, I'm interested in those things. And here's why I'm interested. Like, that's who I am. That's where I'm from. That's where I've been. How much of your interest in this rural medicine program and the authenticity behind it, how much do you think that played a part in your success?
I think it was huge. Growing up in Eastern Montana, it's rural. Like, there's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
And I kind of handpicked all of the programs I applied to, except for USIS, have an emphasis in rural medicine. And I think I was able to tell that story pretty well. And I think it came across pretty well to the interviewers as well.
Yeah. How much of the interview was geared towards the rural health stuff?
The initial interview, not much, but I did just have the rural medicine interview for Michigan State last week. And it was very focused on, where you grew up and what your experiences have been in rural medicine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Very interesting. So this goes to another mission accepted from earlier this season, where a student only got one interview and one acceptance because the one specific school, one in the many in his list, that just completely matched who he was. He was someone who was kind of on the law path, on the policy path, and then switched to medicine, and then applied to the one school that's in DC that's really big on policy. And it was just a great fit. Even though his stats weren't stellar, it was a great fit for the school. And that's where it's just so important. And I love to highlight these stories of students finding the schools that are just really good fits for them. And when those schools see those students and they go, oh my gosh, this student's a great fit, doesn't have the best stats, at least MCAT wise, but it's good enough, we want to talk to them. Let's bring them in. Let's interview and see how that goes. And hopefully they're good human beings and we can offer an acceptance, even though the stats aren't stellar. So many students, like if you were going to just look at the MSAR for the schools where you interviewed, my guess is that their median MCAT is probably 514, 515, 516, and you're sitting there with a 504 going, no, I won't apply. So many people self-select out of being accepted, at least interviewed at those schools, because they're afraid they're going to get rejected. How much of that played into your school list where you were looking and you were kind of a little fearful potentially of like, do I even have a shot at this school? Sure, they have a rural health program and that's what I'm interested in, but do I even still have a chance?
I was worried about it, but I felt pretty strongly that I had a good story to tell that definitely fit their mission. All the schools I applied to had a strong emphasis in rural medicine.
Yeah.
So I felt like I had a pretty good shot, even though my stats my MCAT was on the low side for their schools.
Yeah. When you submitted your application, did you play the one school game where you just submitted to one school just in case the MCAT score came back bad?
That's exactly what I did. Yes, I submitted to one school that I knew I was going to apply to regardless, USIS, the military med school over in Maryland. Because again, being a veteran, I felt like I had a pretty strong chance of getting accepted to their school.
Yeah.
As long as I didn't fail the MCAT, so to speak. But
okay. Awesome. How much did the MCAT, if at all, came up in your interviews?
Not a single time.
Not a single time. Yeah. That's the answer. Awesome. From an interview standpoint, you mentioned kind of being woefully underprepared for your first interview. Any tips, any advice, any kind of lessons learned after going on 4 interviews that you want to give to someone watching?
Yeah, I mean, just practice. I felt like I was pretty good at just having a normal conversation with people, and the interviews that weren't MMI, I felt like I knocked out of the park.
Yeah.
But the MMI one was very challenging, and there were some of those scenarios they play with actors and everything that, again, I did not feel like I did very, very well at, but
yeah,
again, good enough.
So it's very interesting having been in the Air Force, me being in the Air Force and doing lots of exercises, right? That's kind of what the military is. It's a exercise, hope and pray you never need to use any of it. And you go about your merry way. I would have assumed that you being in the military, I'm assuming you're doing lots of exercises.
Yeah.
That's all the MMI is let's do an exercise. And so you should be prepared for that because that's really all it is. In the military, did you enjoy doing exercises?
Not at all.
Okay. So you're not a good make-believer. You're not a good use your imagination person. Okay. And that's very interesting because it definitely is a skill all by itself, right? Outside of interview skills and communication skills and anything else, just being able to go, I'm going to play make-believe for a little bit and have a little tea party with my stuffed animals, right? That is a skill all by itself. My wife does not like kind of playing make-believe with the kids. I enjoy it. It's fun for me. So it's just an interesting tidbit there that you don't enjoy the exercises in the military and didn't enjoy the MMI. So interesting takeaway. I wonder if there's some sort of like practice that we can do outside of like, let's prep for the MMI that just gets people comfortable playing make-believe. Because that's all it is. It's just a giant game of make-believe. Interesting. Okay. Any other kind of big takeaways as you went through this process from start to finish? Any other big takeaways that you can reflect back on and go, this is where my success came from?
Nothing that really stands out to me. I mean, I feel like we kind of touched on everything that I felt I did, good enough in, and some things that I could have improved on that would have helped a little bit. But again, it only takes one. And that was kind of my mindset going into the whole thing is, you just got to convince somebody that you're going to be a good doctor.
Just takes one. What was it like to get that first acceptance call or email?
Well, yeah, it was actually a call. It was pretty funny because I was at a board meeting for my hockey association, and I saw I had a missed phone call from Michigan, and I was like, they don't call you if you're not accepted.
Yeah.
So, and then like a 2.5 minute voicemail left on my phone. So that it was exciting. It was a really fun time.
That's awesome. Who was the first person you told?
I think I texted my parents and my sister. We have just a group chat going on, and then I called my girlfriend and told her.
Nice.
All
right.
It's gonna be a next fun next 7 years or so for med school residency. But
yeah, what's your biggest concern moving forward?
Ooh. I honestly don't really have many concerns. I mean, obviously, medical school in general is kind of frightening experience, but just like anything else, just take it a day at a time and just keep moving forward. You're gonna have good days and bad days, but just keep putting them forward.
Yeah. How many acceptances total have you gotten?
I have one acceptance and one wait list.
One acceptance, one wait list. Okay, so you haven't had to play the where do I want to go game. You got the one acceptance.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to decide, like, because I'm hoping I get off the wait list at USIS because I applied for the HBSP program, but I got denied because of my hearing loss that is apparently genetic. Yeah, but USIS was able to grant me a waiver for it, so I don't know. so in the hopes to join the military again and not have to pay for medical school, I would really like to go to USIS, but we'll kind of waiting and seeing.
Yeah. Did you use your GI Bill already?
I have, yes. But I still have a couple months on it, and then I also have my Montgomery GI Bill that I'm hoping I can tap into. I kind of need to talk to some GI Bill experts about how to utilize both of them.
Yeah. I'm still hanging on to my post 9/11 GI Bill that like I went to med school already. I don't want any more education, unfortunately. Well, awesome. Congratulations on all your success. Thanks for coming on and sharing your story and being vulnerable and hopefully showing other people, again, you don't have to be perfect to get into medical school. You have to be yourself, which is what you did. You put it on paper. You didn't try to show off. You just were yourself. So congrats on all your success.
Well, thank you so much.